Hi, I'm John Montgomery. I started with smoking just last year, and I'm no kind of expert about it. All I've got is my Weber Kettle, and I thought I needed some other smoker until I watched a few YouTube videos like, most people do. You go to YouTube University, and I discovered that a lot of people do some great meat smoking on just their old Weber Kettle. And I've had this one for over 20 years now, and I thought I was going to get a pellet smoker or something like that until I saw something this company was offering. Spider Grills. If you get all those advertisements in your Facebook news feed, you probably get all the different pellet companies, pellet smokers, and I happened to start getting these ones from Spider Grills. They made a pellet feeder smoker that you could put on the side of your Weber Kettle, and I went to their page last year and saw that they had this in the works. And it finally became available, and I went ahead and bought one, and it's probably one of the first ones in the state. So I thought, you know what, why don't I do an unboxing and show everybody in the audience. So without further ado, let's open this up. All right. I think this shipped from Illinois. It took maybe 2 days to get here. Actually, it took 3. It got delayed for some reason in Columbus. Some nice styrofoam packing. Comes with a little screwdriver. Now, I'm not going to show how to actually put it on the grill because Spider Grills already has one on their YouTube channel that goes into depth about how to put it on there, so I'm not going to do that. I'll show you when I've got it installed, and I'll let you know if I had any problems doing it. Here's the ash can, goes on the bottom. Looks like we've got an owner's manual. Let's take a look here. Yep, lots of instructions. I'm just going to set that aside. All right, so here's the heart of it. I'll just take it out of the bag now. So this is the controller. And it's got a little fan on it, I think, and it helps control the heat. It's got a digital display readout here. It'll show you what the grill temp is. And it's got different probes here for showing what the meat temp is. And then it all goes to an app that I've already downloaded to my phone. So I don't have to come out here and keep checking the temp. I can just stay inside and check my phone and see what the temp is on it. So that's pretty cool. And that was another reason why I decided to upgrade like this. It's just a lot of effort to try to keep the temp where it's supposed to be on one of these Webers. You have to really become an expert at operating the upper and lower vents, keeping the coals just right. So I thought it'd be nice to have something a little bit more automated to do it. And at the time that I purchased this, it was $200. And there's some really expensive meat thermometers that can, come over $100. So I thought for $200, this seemed like a pretty good solution. So what else? Okay, and down here in the bottom, we've got the little power supply and then the temperature probes. Now, I had heard something about a battery adapter for these, but if you were going to take your kettle out to, maybe you were going to do some tailgating with it, it'd be nice to have this battery operated, unless you've got a little generator with you. I plan to take it camping, and my trailer's got an outlet on the outside. I think I'll have enough power to run this. It's probably not a big draw. Early tomorrow morning, I'm going to put a brisket on, and hopefully that'll be done. We've got some guests coming over in the evening, and I think I'd pick the coldest, windiest weekend in March to do this. So I'll see you in a bit. Well, this is covered in Spider Grills' video on how to install this, but here I've got the Weber upside down. I had to do that to put the smoker controller in place. It's pretty straightforward. There's a hard mounted tab here, and then there's a couple spring loaded tabs for the other legs. So it's just a matter of putting this one in first and then popping these two into place. It takes a little bit of effort because there's this ring, this fiberglass ring that seals everything, and you got to compress that, but it's not too bad. And then finally you've got this little latch here that you put on the sweeper arm. So you still have your sweeper arm so you can sweep coals down into the bucket. All right, I've got it plugged in. I've got the kettle's temperature probe plugged in. See, it's got P, and then there's room for 2 more probes. The kit comes with 1 meat probe, and I guess you can buy another one. So it's got some cool features. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Neat. That's pretty cool. Okay, and 52 degrees is the ambient temperature in the kettle, I guess. If we come over here, we've got a graph, so you can check progress. Now this tells you to close the vent over on the side here, and then you can come and set the temp. This works in 5-degree increments, and that's pretty nice. You know, I guess there's some systems out there where, you know, you got to go 15 or 25-degree increments, but this does in 5. So you just set the target temp over here, and I think for the for what I'm going to be doing for my brisket, so I'm probably going to put it at 275, maybe 280, and just hopefully it can hover around that temperature. But that's going to be early tomorrow morning, and we'll take care of it then. Hey, I almost forgot. Got to put the ash can on there, and that's pretty simple. It just has a catch there, and then over here on the other side, it's got that latch. Pretty straightforward. Okay, it's dark 30, and I came out here to get the Weber going, and would you know, it's snowing out here. Okay, you can't see them till now. I've got my coals arranged here, and I'm going to start here on this end, get this going. You can see the temp goes up pretty quick once the coals start to get going. Once it gets up to operating temperature, I'll put the brisket on and we'll program the controller here, and hopefully everything works after that. So I set a target temp of 280 for the kettle, and you can hear the fan. It's forcing air into the kettle to work as a bellows and get those coals heating up faster, get the kettle warmed up faster. All right, the temp looks low because I've got the lid off at the moment, but I've got the brisket on, barely fits on there. For reference, that's about a 10-pound brisket. I know they put 13-pound briskets on here, but this is kind of stretching it. Got the probe in, and I'm going to put the lid back on here so it can get back up to temp. So, one of the things I learned this morning is that it was taking a while to get up to temp. I started the coals on the one end like you saw. Went back and looked at the instructions. They actually want a bed of coals going. Now you can do an offset, but those coals should be lit. When that fan kicked on, it really spread the fire to the rest of the coals. So it might mean going through extra coals, but if I can have a more consistent regular heat going, that's fine by me. Coals don't cost that much. Anyway, we'll get that temp for that probe set at 200 degrees internal, but I'm sure that's going to be a couple hours off before we get there. Okay, I've learned a lot about this device here in the last few hours. I'll share those lessons a little later, but we've been at the temp here for
about 45 minutes. This has this graph on it that'll show you over time what your temperature's been doing. The white line is the kettle temp, the red line is the internal meat temp. And you can see I had a lot of problems here trying to get up to this temp. But see how I've got this solid line right here? Well, that's when I figured out that you can't use the briquette basket. You have to put the grills right on the grate. You can still do an offset, but it needs the airflow coming off the grill, coming off the charcoal grate. So you can't use a basket, but other than that, it works great. It got up to temp and pretty much stayed there. I think I put in 285 and it's been hovering around 279. So, and if you push the meter here, that shows you the grill temp, that shows you the meat temp. If I had a second probe, I'm sure it would cycle to that too. Anyway, we're up to 163. So I'm going to be taking the brisket off here, and I'm going to be wrapping it in foil, putting a little mix on there of some applesauce and water, and then we'll put it back on to finish the cook. I'm basically following cooking with rise process for doing brisket. So anyway, I'll take it off, wrap it up, and put it back on. Okay, so we're back in business here. Got it foil wrapped. There's a few layers of foil on there, trying to hold the apple juice and water in there. And you see the hot embers there. The fan from the Venom is keeping those embers stoked. Got Robbie Robinson here. He's come over to have some of this brisket tonight. So it's in the case there. Take a whiff of that. Get down there. Get your nose down there and take a whiff.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Chad, you're missing this. That's great. It smells great, delicious.
All right, so I only know about how to cut this thing up from what I saw in YouTube videos, but this area over here should be the flat. This should be the point. There's some extra stuff here I probably should have trimmed off, but oh well. It looks good, it smells good, and it passed the initial taste test. So I think we want to cut through here. And then I think we got a point here. We'll just separate all this. Just find all the fat lines in there and cut it apart. But that looks good. But this is the flat. So we're going to cut across here and see if we got a smoke ring. It's a little tough. Oh, look at that. It got a ring right there. Some ring. Ooh, and some juice there too. All right. And for anybody who cares, I did wash my hands. No, I'm not wearing gloves, but I did wash my hands. So here's a nice, pretty good thick cut. And look at that. I think that passes the test. I think that's what we're looking for. Oh, and let's do another one. The pull apart test. Okay, a little bit of, whoop, just snapped right in half. So, that's not bad. Well, so there you have it. That's my review of the Spider Grills Venom smoker controller for the Weber Kettle. I should say that is, I believe, specifically for the 22-inch. There's different sizes, different styles. I did send a picture to the company of my setup here just to verify that it would work, and they said, yeah, it will, and it did. I should also mention that this video is unsponsored. I paid my 200 bucks, got my controller. It only took 3 days shipping. Bought the brisket, and it was a great cut of meat. Didn't have a lot of fat cap on it, but that's okay. It didn't seem to
be a problem. It was really tasty. Everybody liked it, and we're going to enjoy some leftovers here later on. As far as the controller goes, yeah, I highly recommend it. I thought it was great once I figured out how to use it. You can't really use the standard issue Weber coal baskets with it. It seems to need a lot more airflow than that. According to some comments they made on one of their videos on YouTube, you could use something like a slow and sear basket that might have better ventilation underneath it. But I had a lot of problems controlling temperature early on. It just wouldn't get up to heat after the first time I heated it up. And I think what happened was after that first round of coals burned down, it created kind of an ash bed there that the air couldn't really circulate through. That, and I had a water trough next to it. I thought maybe it's too cold. It was like just below freezing and snowing. So I moved it into my carport, kind of put a blanket over it. That wasn't working, and I finally said, you know what, let's just watch some videos. Let's look at the instructions. And from that I kind of figured out I had to ditch the basket. I just dumped the coals out to do an indirect, so the coals were on the side of the kettle. And once I did that, temperature zoomed right up to where it needed to be and stayed there until I needed to add some coals. If there's any hit against this system, I'm not sure it really is a hit, is you probably have to use some more coal than you normally would, because you're doing a sort of a force feeding of air, and if you're going to force some more air into it, you're going to burn up the fuel a little bit faster. It's not that big a deal, and if I'd have done it right from the beginning, I probably wouldn't have gone through as much. So yeah, you know, it was a failure to read instructions, but we recovered from it. Overall, I think I had the meat on there for around 7 hours, rested for about 3.5, and everything turned out fine. I'm by no means a smoking expert, but I thought this would be great to just make it a little bit easier. And once you learn a few tricks, I think it is. So I'm really looking forward to using it again. The app works great. Where my kettle is, it doesn't have the greatest Wi-Fi signal. So I did have to occasionally reconnect. And if you are using it and you're looking at your app and you see the temperature hasn't fluctuated at all, you should just go in and disconnect and reconnect. It's real simple. It's just a couple of buttons in the app, and yeah, you'll be back in the game, because you really have to know what your temp is. You got to follow that. I would say once it got up into the operating range, it stayed pretty good about being within 5 degrees of the target. So anyway, that's it. I highly recommend it, and we'll get back to using it some more.